2, 3. Does that work? All right. You look like you've been to the beach, Kate. Hey, Kate, you look like you've been to the beach or that you've had your hair done. Really? Wake Tech did your hair? Ah. So, yeah, I heard that. I'm quite aware. Welcome, people. I've noticed we've got this big hole in the middle. And here's the thing. Well, I can't because there's all this stuff here. How's that? Is that better? All right. So it's kind of a day where we are in this thing together. And that big gaping maw in the middle of us says, we're not in this together. So maybe what we could do is stand for a moment. Everyone stand up together. And maybe you could get closer to someone. And if you were closer to someone, maybe we would fill in the big gaping maw that's in the middle of the room. What do you think? All right, ready? Move yourselves around. No greeting. You may not greet one another while you do this. No friendliness allowed. There's no friendliness to be done here. We're just filling in space. Oh yeah, that worked great. Yeah, I just don't think that table's that table's really just a placeholder. All right. Well, welcome to Common Thread, my friends. Welcome to you, those of you who are online. And Harriet, if you showed up today, welcome to you as well. We are going to be getting ready now for the next few moments for our work of the people for the people. And to do that, we need some people. I think maybe the three of you at that table, you got to start handing stuff out. So you need a shaker. And let's see, since I don't see any, yeah, we don't have our, and you need a tone chime. So if you were familiar with a tone chime, if you've played it before, let me show you what it's going to look like when you get there. Oh, yeah, this is going to take forever. But you see that? If you've done that before or if you're familiar with that before, then you need a tone chime. All right, let's start handing out tone chimes. And also, if you got the finger symbols, then you have to remember you play it after the word God and you play it after the word me. All right? We're not started yet. We are getting ready to start. What do the tone chimes? Joe will tell you which one. Hey, Joe, which tone chimes do we need to hand out? All the colored ones? If it's got a color on it, hand it out. Okay. Now, while that's happening, you just keep waving your hand. While that's happening, I also would like your mind. So if I could have your mind for just a moment. Yeah, that's not going to happen. All right, let's go ahead and do the tone chimes first. We're not going to get minds while we're also getting tone chimes. All right. All right. Now, let's do this. Are you ready? Hold on just a second. If you've got a tone chime, hold it up. All right, just to get it out of our systems, let's bang it. Ding. Beautiful. All right, now don't do that anymore. All right, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to instead think about a conflict that you've had. What conflict? What's this guy doing? Well, it's going to help us this morning. So bring to mind sometime somebody hurt your feelings, or sometime you hurt somebody's feelings, and maybe today we've had so much political and culture war feeling hurting. Maybe let's go a little bit smaller today and think about a family member, or maybe a coworker, or a boss, or a neighbor, or a friend, or someone who's a classmate. So go ahead, take a breath. Think of somewhere you've had a conflict. Also often helps if you put your eyes up. Now, kids, during this month, after we have been dismissing you, here's what we all have been doing, the adults. We've been practicing the loving kindness meditation. And what we do when we practice that meditation is we stretch our interior ability to extend love and kindness, because acts of love and acts of kindness actually change things. If we are able to act with love and act with kindness towards someone, even when that someone is mad at us, even when we are mad at that someone, even when we have been disrespected, even when we have disrespected, if we can, and it's not easy, but if we can act lovingly and kindly, we can often activate a part of other people's brains that's called the reward center. That means we get a bunch of chemicals working with us, oxytocin and dopamine. We start getting the part of the brain working with us. Now, the other option is to make a really good argument. The other option is to tell someone how dumb they are. The other option is to withdraw and get all silent and quiet. That, on the other hand, does just the opposite. It doesn't make those brain chemicals come out. So when we are able to actually care about someone and actually extend love and kindness to them, we can, here's a superpower, are you ready? We can make other people better people. We can actually do that. We can make our coworkers better coworkers. We can make our family better family members. We can make our friends better friends. Here's the problem. When we've got bad feelings, when we feel angry or when we feel afraid or when we feel hurt, our brains don't want to do love or kindness. That's the problem. In fact, our brains want to do just the opposite. And when we do that, then those other people get hurt. And then their brains, they don't want to do acts of kindness. And then the whole cycle starts up. They do something mean. We don't want to do something kind back. We do something mean. They don't want to do something kind back. And it's a whole thing. It's a real pickle that we get into. So today, our focus is going to be on becoming the kind of people who can actually bring about good change in the world around us. Help our families and help our friends and help the people at our jobs. School's going to start up pretty quick. Help the kids who are in our classes with us become better people by love and kindness. So welcome to Common Thread. Welcome to today. That's what we're going to be working on together today. If you are a newcomer, we're glad you're here. If you're tuning in, we're glad you're here. Oh, showed that already. Here's the thing, we'd like to send you an email to give you some stuff to read about the community so you know what you're getting into. At the end of that, you're going to find that there's an invitation way down at the bottom of the email if you'd like to meet some people, because what you'll find out about the community is about making friends. So if you'd like to start doing that, when you're ready, you can click that. There's an option, and you do that by going to our website /newcomer. Also, if you're having a rough day, one of the things that's a hallmark of healthy community is we stand with each other on our rough days. Now, here's the thing. As Americans, we don't like to talk to people about our rough days on our rough days. We like to keep that all hidden away. And so to be the kind of community, we're going to have to decide we're going to be the kind of community where we do stand with one another. So if you do, 3 ways. You can go to the website /soul, how's your soul? You can go to the QR code right there, or you can just go talk to Rosemary back there at the back afterwards, and she will chat with you. So, oh yeah, we do this now. All right, let's say it together as we do each week. If you are here, you belong. If you are here, you belong. Excellent. And let's say together, we are every one of us carriers of the inner light. And we are every one of us carriers of the divine breath. Yeah, not that. So, before we begin today, here are a few ways you can connect in the community. I'm going to run through them really quickly. You're going to see at the end, if you want to find out any of the details, our website, the app, or open the Thursday email. What are you thinking on Zoom? Afterwards, you'll see it. Next week, Thrive at Pullen Park after church. Please do come. There will... That's right. There will be water bombs. There will be flower bombs. I don't know what that means, but there will be a red team. There will be a blue team. There will also be shade. And there will also be a place to sit in that shade. So bring a board game. I introduced my grandkids to a new game. It's called Carcassonne or Carcassonne. I'm going to bring that to play. On the 6th, there's a teen outing to Frankie's. Also that evening, Brew Crew is going to meet at Transfer Food Hall. There's an opportunity to volunteer on the 12th, and on the 20th, drop in Enneagram group. Here's the thing I was just talking about. Thrive. You heard Shelby just say, sign up online. I know most of us don't do that. Here's the reason to do that, so that Shelby doesn't feel anxious, because she's a little bit worried that none of you are going to come. And so she's got to build teams, she's got to do all that stuff. So please go and register. Please do that. And also come sit in the shade. You know, when the pandemic happened, it was like a snake swallowing a pig. You know, it just kind of took up everything. So it's been a long time since we have had a time outside together. So it's going to be fun. So please do come and show. That'll be next Sunday. Get some food right after church, go. I said last week that we have been working for over a year. The board has been on our bylaws. We have done all the writing. We're to the place now where we've put it out for comment. You have commented. We've integrated those comments. We're to the place where we're going to ratify it in September. Before we ratify in September, sitting right at that table all the Sundays in August, Angie, who's been kind of leading us through the process, is going to sit with you right there to answer any questions you've got, to have any thoughts that you've got, to absorb any more last-minute comments. There's not going to be a lot of big changes because we've already done most of that. But here's probably the main reason. Because when we sent this out for everyone in the community to read, and when we sent this out for you to absorb because it's such a significant part of our community's future, there's a really good chance you didn't bother. And that's okay, because I probably wouldn't have read it if I wasn't helping write them. But you still need to know what's in there. So here's what you could do for those 4 Sundays in August. You could come sit with Angie and you could say, I didn't read it. And she will say, no problem. Let me tell you what's in it. And I think if you do that, and when you do, you're really going to like what we've done, and you're going to like what you hear. So that will be coming up. And then, so we're going to have some last-minute comments in August. We're going to ratify in September. That's coming up. And as I said, you can always find out what's going on because you didn't get any details today. And finally, the housekeeping slide. If you go to the link, or if you go to the app, or if you go to our website /housekeeping, ways that you can help in the community, and you are some good people, because all the things that are there right now have already been responded to. Now we're just looking to help share the load. So we've got some people who are going to help learn about the community. Great. Come help share the load. Click that box. We've already got 2 organizers for outdoorsy events. That'll get us through the fall. Something simple to organize, to go for a hike, to go for a swim, to do something outside. If you'd like to do it this year or this coming year, please sign up. We've had several people respond to our job posts that we've been making, looking for kids, people who work with our kids and teenagers. Here's what we haven't had. We haven't had them follow through and actually show up for an interview. So we are still hoping for somebody who knows somebody. So that's still there. We've been working really hard to do that, but if you know somebody, please click that box. You know, any babysitter you know, someone works at the Y, things like that. Julie will follow up with you. Okay, that's all the stuff. Now the stuff. We talk about oneness a lot. You'll hear me say all the time, oneness is a better description of reality than two-ness. You'll hear me say all the time, we are more one than we are two. But the word oneness can seem a little bit vague or unclear. So today is going to be about making it very not vague, very, very clear. Because creating oneness really happens at your house and at my house. Creating oneness happens at your job, with your friends, at your school. Because oneness happens when we live mercy and when we live forgiveness, primarily when we live love and kindness. So, somebody hurts our feelings. We decide what happens next. I asked you to think about that just a moment ago. Here's what we can do. We can hold a grudge. Sure enough, do that, and now we don't have oneness, we have two-ness. We can say something mean back. Sure enough, now we don't have oneness, we have two-ness. Joe reminded me how comfortable we get with two-ness. We know how to do that. We don't even have to try. We don't have to try to hold a grudge. We don't have to try to be mean back to somebody. That part just comes naturally. But when we do our best to restore relationship, which doesn't come naturally, which Joe also reminded me, that gets really scary when we do that. We start making oneness happen. And my watch really wants to talk to me today. And that's about as practical as it gets. Oneness is a very practical thing. So, a heads up before we begin this whole work of the people for the people thing that we're about to do. When it's all said and done, when we get to the end of it, here's what it's going to be about. Oneness comes down to love and kindness. So, with that, let's begin our work of the people for the people. All right, Levi, come on up. Let's move this out of the way. All right. Oh, yeah, that's right. You need the clicker. All right. So we light this lamp to remind us, when you see it out of the corner of your eye, that the divine is everywhere. The divine is in everything. The divine is in everyone. It worked before, didn't it?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, remember, right into the microphone.
There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is no male and female, for in the Spirit of Christ we are all one. Those were pressing divisions when Paul wrote these words. Today, he might write, there is neither immigrant or native, rich or poor, red or blue, black or brown or white, for in the Spirit of Christ we are all one. It is not always that way, is it? But that's our job. Spiritual people. Help move our part of the world from how it is to how it can be. So, before we sing, take a moment. Bring to mind a person or place. Maybe your family, your friends, your job, your school. Where could you be? Love and kindness. Make oneness. Hope.
All right, I think Doug already mentioned it, but if you have shakers, when shakers show up on the screen, you're shaking the shakers. If they disappear, you're not. If you have a jingle tap, when you get it, you can play on 2 and 4 or whatever beat seems right to you. And if you're holding a tone chime, when the colored letters show up and you've got that color, that's when you play. Here we go. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And we pray that all unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. and we'll guard each one's dignity and save each one's pride. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love, by our love. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news that God is in our land. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love, by our love. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Love is patient, love is kind, never boasts, not full of pride. Always hopes, always trusts, the evidence of Christ in us. Love is patient, love is kind, never boasts, not full of pride. Always hopes, always trusts, the evidence of Christ in us. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Terrific.
Ring the bowl to mark this time as different from other time. Oh, sorry. We ring this bowl to mark this time as different from other time. It reminds us that during this time we try and listen behind the words. We try and listen for the interior voice. We try and listen for the interior promptings, the interior nudgings. That's what this time is marked for. So give it a good whack. Perfect.
Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy or boast. It is not proud, does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. Love isn't easily angered, does not hold grudges. Love protects, love trusts, love hopes, love preserves. Let's take another moment to reflect on how we could, who we could love better.
Next slide.
We are one. We are one. We are all one in God. We are love. We are love. We are all the love of God.
St. Francis. Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy.
We are all one in God. We are love. We are love. We are all the love of God.
Conquer anger by love, evil by good. Conquer the miser with generosity, and the liar with truth. Repel what is evil with that which is better. Treat those with whom you have enmity as though they are devoted friends. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. The light is in all. Reflect upon that, and there will be no one else.
We are one. We are one. We are all one in God. We are love. We are love. We are all the love of God. Beauty surrounds me, falling at my feet, as I hear the calling of the Holy One in me. We are whole, we are whole, we are all the wholeness of God. We are strength, we are strength, we are all the strength of God. Beauty surrounds me, falling at my feet, as I hear the calling of the Holy One in me. We are made, we are made, we are made, we are made, we are all made of God. We are one, we are one, we are all one in God. We are, we are, we are, we are, we are. We are, we are, we are, we are, we are, we are.
Let's all find a comfortable place in our bodies. And as we do that, let's call to mind this person we've been bringing to our minds this morning, this person to whom we want to extend love and kindness. This person with whom we have perhaps had some conflict. This person who perhaps it may be a little bit challenging to love. But we can change our relationship, and we can change this person, and we can change ourselves and the world as we extend to this person in our hearts loving kindness. As we think of this person, may this person be free from harm and danger. May they be safe and protected. Continuing to extend love and kindness from our hearts, from deep within us. This person, may this person to whom we are extending love and kindness be free of suffering or distress. May they be healthy and strong. As we continue to express and send love and kindness to this person, may this person live in this world with peace, joy, and well-being.
As we conclude the liturgy portion of today's service, let's sing one more song together. Ubi caritas, Deus ibi est. Ubi caritas, Deus ibi est. Where there is charity and love, God is there, God is there. Where there is charity and love, God is always there. We have gathered in this place, joining hearts in love and grace, giving thanks to God above. We go Ubi caritas, ubi caritas, Deus ibi est. Ubi caritas, Deus ibi est. God is always there.
So may we be what Azalea led us in that prayer earlier to be. May we be conduits of oneness. May we be people who are instruments of peace, who are sowers of love, who are healers of injury, light to darkness, and hope to despair. Amen. Now. Oh, yeah. Let's stand up together. I hope you had someone come to your mind. I did. And I hope that that begins to work inside of you. Let's turn and pass the peace of God one to another. And the kids, you are welcome to line up and start getting ready to go. And as you're being seated, good morning again. So, our lesson has been going on all summer long, rehabilitating our religion. The lesson image that you see behind me, the Japanese art of kintsugi, it is taking something that is broken, and anybody who is paying attention knows that our religion is broken. So broken that the title I sent out earlier this week was, nah, it's too far gone, it can't be repaired. So, it is, in the face of what a lot of people have concluded religion is not worth repairing, it's a metaphor of hope. Because it says, take something broken, don't toss it, but instead, with labor and with lacquer and with gold, redeem it, repair it, rehabilitate it, create a new strength, create a new beauty. Well, if you missed the lesson so far, you can definitely catch up online. You'll hear Angie, you'll hear Sue, Heather talk about where we think the rehabilitating process begins. Angie talked about rehabilitating the Bible. Sue talked about rehabilitating how we think about God. Heather, how we think about human nature. And today I want to talk about why we started there. Why, when we approach rehabilitating religion, we start with the stories that we tell ourselves, stories about the Bible or about God or about our own human nature. So thinking about the lesson, I was driving with Denise this week, and I asked her, I said, when people criticize Christians, what do you think they say? What's their critique? And she didn't take long. She'll often mull these things over. She didn't. She just immediately said, I think people say we're inflexible and that we're rigid and that we stick to our beliefs even when they become harmful. Even when they become harmful, we can't let go of them. Heather said something similar when I sent out a text to several people this week. We're inflexible. But here's the thing about inflexible. You heard Angie talk about one approach to the Bible, a very commonly held approach to the Bible that is kind of inflexible. It's a kind of a rigid approach to the Bible. Even when those interpretations begin to do harm to us and to people around us, we can't let go of them. Because it turns out, if you're going to think about rehabilitating religion, you're going to have to start with the stories that we tell ourselves. I asked several friends this week the same question. When people criticize us as Christians, what do they criticize? Angie texted back first. Bam, she was quick. And she came up with an oldie but goodie. She said hypocrites. When people talk about us, they say we're hypocrites. But here's the thing. You heard Sue talk about our view of God. God made us with the capacity to sin because, all powerful. God made us knowing that we were going to sin because, all knowing. And then when we did sin, he blamed us and condemned us to eternal torment, all the while saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. So what Angie says is true. Often we Christians are hypocrites, but it turns out our God is a hypocrite. Or maybe we got our story wrong. So if you're going to rehabilitate religion, you're going to have to start with the stories that we tell ourselves. Another text I got back is that Christians don't act, they just talk. In other words, the whole thoughts and prayers critique that's become kind of a meme in our society right now started with that. We're not going to do anything, but we certainly are going to pray. I'll pray for you. I won't get out there and change the systems that drive the world because they actually disagree with my politics. I won't work on the systems that cause pain, but I will pray. But here's the thing. You heard Heather talk about a very commonly held story in the Christian tradition about human nature. It says we are irredeemable because, Eve, the apple she told about when Henry was a little baby. Look at that, original sin. That's a story that a lot of Christians tell ourselves, that nothing can be done, that we are powerless over our corrupted nature. The only hope that we have is the prayer. So, if there's no image of God that we carry deeply inside ourselves, if we are condemned to death and torment, and there's not a thing we can do about it except pray the prayer, well then prayer is a pretty big deal. So we will put considerable effort into praying the prayer and getting other people to pray the prayer and getting other people to sit in the chairs with us in the church where we do pray the prayer so we can grow the church, so we can get more numbers, so we can get more people praying the prayer, because in that story, it's all we've got. All we've got are hopes and prayers. So you can see, if we're going to rehabilitate religion, we're going to have to start with the stories that we tell ourselves. I grew up in Southern California. You can lament with me sometime later. The place is already a desert, and to that desert, we have added wall-to-wall asphalt from Tijuana all the way to Santa Barbara. And so when I came to Raleigh, oh my Lord, paradise. There are trees here, there are nature parks, there are greenways. So when I've got the grandkids, we get out. We get out into the woods, we get out onto greenways, we go stromp our way through creeks. I've bought lots of pairs of Crocs just so we can go creek stomping, and we do that. And we do it every day that we can, unless it's 90 degrees with 73% humidity, which it was on Monday. So I said to the boys, today we're going to the movies where it's air conditioned. And so we saw the new Pixar movie about the 4 Greek elements. A boy from the water tribe falls in love with a girl from the fire tribe, and always one to ruin a good movie-going experience. I did what I do with my kids and now my grandkids after a show or a movie in the car ride home. And I asked them, what do you think the writer of that movie wants you to think? What idea did the writer of that movie have in their head that they want you to have in your head? What did they write that movie to get you to agree with? And as you can imagine, poor kids, I mean, they just got out of kindergarten and second grade. Come on. So I said, I'll give you a hint. They did not want you to think about the 4 Greek elements. They wanted you to think about people. And they wanted you to think about how people live and how people get along or how people don't get along. So that was pretty good breadcrumbs, I thought. And so we had an interesting conversation on the ride home. Well, Grandpa, here's kind of what I think. Even though Fire Girl's dad definitely doesn't think that fire people should be with water people, the writers wanted us to know it's okay. It's okay. And so what do you know? They got it. That's what they get. So now I said, now the next question is always we have to ask. Once we know what the writer of a show or the writer of a movie wants us to agree with, now we get to ask the question, do we? Do we agree with that? Do we agree with their idea? What do you think? And so we all decided, yeah, pretty much, except one part. We thought the writers exercised a very weak metaphor because water does extinguish fire and fire does evaporate water. So all that fire and water hugging and kissing that happens at the end, we're not buying it. We don't think that really happens. Well, I have this long history of ruining shows and movies for my kids, now my grandkids, because of a reason. And here's why. I grew up in a church that never asked those questions. Matter of fact, told us not to ask those questions. Never ask, what is this story trying to get me to think? And do I? What happens to me when I buy this story? As a matter of fact, in the church that I grew up in, you were not allowed to do that. It wasn't just that we didn't do it, we were actively discouraged, prohibited from doing it. We were actually discouraged to go to any school that would then teach us to ask those kinds of questions. Now, you've heard me say this thing all the time. It is our way to lose our way, but it is also our way to find our way when we've lost it. That comes with a great deal of historical understanding. We have lost our way so many times, and yet we have found our way as many times minus one. We are losing our way right now, and we haven't yet found it, but we are finding it. So, that's been true in history. It happens again and again and again. It is our way to lose our way, but it is also our way to find our way when we lose it. But there's something that will get in the way of that natural process happening, and it is that. When we don't normalize the practice of examining and challenging the stories that we tell ourselves. If we don't stand back from our stories and we just let them grind away inside of us, telling us what to think and telling us how to act and telling us who's okay to be friends with and who it's not okay to be friends with, telling us what to look for, which then will determine what we actually see and find. If we don't do that, we will not find our way again. If we keep telling ourselves, if we keep telling one another, God is this way, and we don't ever question it. The Bible is that way, and we don't ever question it. Human nature and sin and salvation and the afterlife, they are this way. Don't look behind the curtain. Don't ask those questions. If we don't do that, we will not find our way again. Now again, our religion is broken. So are all the other institutions in society. It's one of those moments in history where our worldview is in upheaval. So consequently, you and I were born into a generation that's all about reformation, about transformation and change. It's all about updating the stories that we tell ourselves. That makes story updating one of the critical skills required of our time. That makes story updating one of the critical skills of our time. In the remaining weeks of the lesson, you'll hear how some of their core stories that need updating, stories about sin, about what salvation is and isn't. I'm deciding if I'll do the last lesson because it would naturally be about updating our story of the afterlife. But I hope you remember, I just did that when we talked about redeeming that song, so I'm not sure whether I'll do it again to make the lesson complete or whether I'll just refer you to that one. But the lesson is an invitation to see what our stories do to us. To see by bringing the stories to the light, by examining them, because stories like this, they run deep and they don't often get seen or examined, to take them from the tacit to the explicit and ask, what do I think about that? Do I agree with that? What is that story doing to me? And do I want it to do that to me? What do I think? Now, here's why that matters. Our ethics, our behaviors, whether we act badly or whether we act well, is determined powerfully by our stories. Let me just give you a few examples today. A lot of Christian people have a story in their guts, pretty unexamined, but kind of in there. And the story goes something like this: God favors some people, and God doesn't favor some other people. Now, different Christian groups have different ideas of who God favors and who God doesn't, but basically there are a group of people that get God's favor, and usually it's the people who have prayed the prayer, or who go to church, or who give money, or who think like we think, or who are well-behaved, or who are on our side of whatever culture war issue happens to be most pressing of the day. And while we don't state it overtly, we assume God favors those people and gives them blessings. There's an if-then construct. If we do this, then God will do that, which is a way of saying God favors these people and not those people. We will get a better life if we do this. We'll especially get a better afterlife if we do this. We'll get a worse life if we don't. Now, as these stories do, that one gets pretty entrenched in there. So entrenched that we don't even see some of the things that happen to us. So we might be with our own tribe one day. This has happened in my church upbringing. I hope it didn't happen in yours, where something bad happens to someone who's part of the tribe. And we kind of think to ourselves, what did they do? Well, there's something going on, probably sin somewhere in the camp. Did they believe wrong? Did they act wrong? What secret thing? Because that is not God's favor. What did you do? So, if we realize when someone isn't being blessed, that they must be in the God does not favor group, they're probably like the other folks in that group, the atheist people, they're not favored by God, or the Muslim people, or the gay or lesbian or trans people. When I was a kid, it was the Catholic people, or the Jehovah's Witness people, or the Mormon people. Making a big comeback lately is the women people, or especially the women leading in church people, or the pro-life people, or when I was a kid, it was divorced people, especially if they remarried after they were divorced people, especially damned then. Even when I was a kid, go to college people, because that's where you ask the questions that you're not supposed to be asking, or go to therapy people. I don't know why, but there was a problem with go to therapy people, and my God, some of those folks could have gone to therapy. Or social justice people, because once we tell a story that our benevolent Father in heaven favors some people but not other people, it's not long before we figure out how to do the same. Usually it's more instinct than it is a thoughtful strategy. We just find ourselves morphing into that way of being, but we figure out some way where we favor some people and not other people like God does. And it all starts with a story, usually unexamined, usually not looked at. Same thing happens with how we think about responsibility. It all starts with a story. How much of what happens is all on me? How much of what happens isn't all on me? It's a story. What about the environment? Tell a story about sin breaking the world, and it's all going to burn anyway, and then why would we care about exploiting nature? But on the other hand, tell a story about the world being made of divine breath, immeasurably precious. Then we venerate it. We repair it. we protect it. It all starts with a story. Or how do we think about second chances, giving people second chances or third chances or 15th chances or 40th chances? If our story tells us you better decide before you die because it is appointed unto man once to die and then the judgment, you better decide right or you are screwed, then we're kind of unlikely to extend unlimited redemptive possibilities to other people. But carry around a different story, and we begin to keep trying and keep extending and keep offering repair and redemption and restoration. I resisted becoming a preacher for a long time because a lot of the preachers that I knew were functioning according to a story that says, if I will serve God, God will take care of my kids. So it's okay if I'm out every night, and it's okay if I miss dinners, and it's okay if I miss soccer games because serving God. It's okay if I neglect my kids because God. Well, that's a damaging story. I didn't want any part of that. Or here's a big one. It's the one and true truth story that we talk about. We have it, they don't, it's all good. That one drives the critique that Denise mentioned. Carry a story that there is such a thing as a one and true truth and that we have it. Then we don't ask questions, and we don't allow doubts, and we don't challenge constructs that we carry around inside of ourselves. We don't even question our practice when we see them doing harm. We don't even change our constructs when we see them painting us into a corner, making us act so differently from the way Jesus taught us to act. Unspoken, unexamined, if you have the one and true truth, it would be bad to change. But it's a story. That one, interestingly, is a story our tradition has explicitly told us not to tell. We don't have a one and true truth we are taught. We don't know anything about anything that is truly important. We call that one the ineffability doctrine or the transcendence doctrine. We don't have it. So, stories exist, and they either determine whether we function with arrogance or humility, whether we function with open-mindedness or closed-mindedness, whether we consider or don't consider we might have it wrong. Someone else might have a truth that we have not yet seen. If your story tells that you are at the core of who you are, ugly, corrupted, sinful nature, totally depraved is the way one of the stories goes, why would you ever practice silence? Because if you start quieting the noise of the outer parts of your personality and you get down to the deepest part of who you are, and what you get to is this ugly, ugly, sinful consciousness, why in the world would you ever meditate? That's what Buddhists do. And when they do, by the way, they invite the devil into their hearts, which crazily enough, I was taught when I was growing up. And also the stories that we tell determine how much energy we devote to caring for others, how much energy we devote to our relationships, how many hours we work in a week, how much stress we experience, and then when we experience, what we do about it having experienced it. Same thing with anxiety, how much anxiety we feel, what we do when we feel anxiety, depression and loneliness, what we deal with substances, all start with some story that sets some agenda for our lives. Same thing's true with our financial decisions, how we tend to our health, how we spend our time, how we spend our energy, stories. How we act in the moment in history in which we lived when things are as polarized as they are. How much screen time we have in our lives, how much disinformation we absorb, and what we do when we absorb disinformation, stories. So, we are a spiritual community. One of the functions and roles of a spiritual community, the whole design of the thing, is to help us help one another unearth and examine our unconscious stories. To help us help one another recognize the stories that we do tell ourselves, so that we have the option to agree with them or not agree with them. We have the option to challenge them or not challenge them, to reframe them or not reframe them. The whole point of a spiritual community existing is to help us help one another see from more perspectives than we have seen, explore other ideas than we have explored. Sure enough, we've got a whole curriculum on how to do it. We call it work in the circle. What we do if we practice the communal practices and the contemplative and the learning and the serving, that helps us see the stories that we tell ourselves. That helps us weaken the hold that they have over us. That gives us the option to decide to make different choices, potentially better choices, to become better people, kind people, loving people. And so may that be so. In Dwelling Divine, may we be the kind of people who engage the practices of story unearthing, see what drives us, and then have the option to build our lives on better stories. Amen. Well, I have seen the financial report, and we are holding steady. Thank you all. We had that community meeting. We said we were a little bit behind on our monthly. We have met that monthly 2 months running now. Good for us. We're still, this month, we actually came out dead even because we didn't, a lot of the big expenses that were associated with the move got filed last month, and then some of them will probably get filed next month. So don't be surprised if we go in the hole next month, even if we meet our budget. But remember, we're just trying to meet the budget. So thank you. We're doing a good job taking care of our finances. We all give online now. You go to the website, go to the top, there's a button, lots of ways to give. And remember what we say every time, there is great return when we invest in spiritual community. When we give our time and our energy, when we give our love and our dollars, the community takes those resources, amplifies them, and gives them back to us in the form of an environment in which human beings thrive and flourish and grow. So again, we all give online now. We go there and do that. Yes, I said that. Okay, now those of you who are online, we do Zoom right after the lesson. What we do on that Zoom is the same thing that we do here in the room. We do a version of, what are you thinking? Opening the floor, saying, well, what do you think about that? Those of you online, another thing happens as well. Over time, what's happening is the folks who show up start getting to know each other. And even though they live in very disparate parts of the world, they end up becoming dear to one another. And then we start finding our way to having places to connect that are even beyond what happens on Sundays after the lesson. So hope you'll go over there and Zoom, that you can get the link. I think I put the slide up here. Oh yeah, you're supposed to do that, yeah. So you can go to our website, and it'll give you the link right there. You just go to the front page and go down out to where the announcements are. If it's not on the announcement one, just click Show More, and then you'll get to the one that says that, and then when you see it, that's the link. You're going to probably need a password to get in. That password is 1417. 1417. Okay. Oh, we did that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's dismiss the folks who are online, shall we? If you would, please put your hand on your heart to remind us that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, what we call the fruit of the Spirit, it is in us because we are carriers of divine breath. And if you would extend your other hand to our city, let's look for opportunities to share what's already in us with the people that we live and work and go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and heal our worlds. Amen. God bless you all. You are dismissed. We are not dismissed. So here's what we're going to do here in the room.